In the far reaches of the Lorithian expanse, countless worlds trembled under a shadow that no civilization had ever faced before. The Vorath, a relentless and merciless species, had begun a campaign of conquest that threatened to engulf the galaxy. Entire planets had fallen, their skies blackened with fire, and their oceans choked with toxic smoke. The surviving species scrambled, sending out desperate calls for aid, broadcasting across the stars to every known civilization. On the peaceful planet of Kythera, the capital of the Lorithian Alliance, alarms rang through the council hall. High above the shimmering oceans of Kythera, a fleet of alien warships had just barely fended off a Vorath strike. Council members, elegant and humanoid in appearance but with shimmering wings and elongated arms, watched the screens as their remaining fleet fought to survive. "We are losing too many," said High Chancellor Arvin, his voice trembling despite his calm demeanor. "The Vorath adapt faster than we can respond. Our people are dying. If we do not get help, Kythera will fall next." Another council member, Lady Virel, tapped her claws against the console. "We have sent messages to every civilization in this quadrant, every single one. But the silence is unbearable. Only empty static, and the occasional mockery." The chamber fell silent, the only sound the low hum of the starship's engines. Every species in the galaxy had been warned of the Vorath, but the calls for aid had fallen on deaf ears. Most civilizations were too self-centered, too afraid, or too complacent to intervene. Then came the reports from the edge of the galaxy. One message had arrived from an unlikely place: Earth. The message was simple, yet its implication was enormous. Earth, a planet the galaxy considered harsh and uninviting, was home to humans. The galaxy often referred to them as Deathworlders, a term meant as a warning. Earth's environment was extreme. Scorching deserts, frozen wastes, poisonous swamps, violent storms, and predators that could kill a human with a single strike. Yet somehow, humans survived. Not just survived, they thrived. Their ability to adapt, to overcome, had become legendary among those who had studied them. High Chancellor Arvin leaned closer to the screen, squinting at the message. "Earth," he whispered. "The humans. You believe they could help?" Lady Virel shook her head. "Their numbers are small. Their technology, primitive by comparison. Yet, there is something about them. The reports speak of courage, ingenuity, and survival at all costs. Perhaps they are the only species that could survive where others would perish." Meanwhile, on Earth, the scene was very different. The planet's leaders, representatives from the United Terran Council, were gathered in the Earth Command Center, a massive facility built underground beneath the mountains of the northern continent. Screens flickered with the incoming galactic messages, each one more desperate than the last. Admiral Hannah Reyes, the fleet commander, leaned back in her chair. Her dark eyes scanned the message from Kythera. "So they're begging us for help," she said, her voice calm but filled with determination. "The galaxy is falling, and they want Earth to save them. Humans don't usually step in unless it's their problem," replied Commander Darius Khan, her second in command. "But I have to admit, this is different. The Vorath aren't just another threat. If they're anywhere near the Lorithian expanse, it won't be long before they reach us." Hannah's eyes hardened. "Then it's exactly our problem. And if no one else will fight, we will. That's what humans do. We survive. And we fight back." Across the planet, recruitment centers buzzed with activity. Soldiers, pilots, engineers, and scientists, all trained to endure the harshest conditions, readied themselves for a journey across the stars. These were the Deathworlders, humanity's elite, hardened by Earth's deadliest terrains. They had survived the acid storms of the Atacama Expanse, the frozen wastelands of the northern glaciers, and the predator-filled jungles of the equatorial regions. The galaxy had underestimated them for centuries. But Earth's warriors knew that adaptability, courage, and relentless willpower were often stronger than advanced technology or sheer numbers. As preparations continued, humanity's ships began launching. Sleek, robust vessels, each one equipped for extreme conditions, streaked across the atmosphere and into space. Earth's Deathworlders had learned to improvise in situations where others would panic. On board the ships, soldiers practiced in simulated Vorath conditions. Deadly vacuum breaches, gravity shifts, and aggressive alien combat drones. Every crew member knew the stakes. Every crew member was ready. Meanwhile, in the void between galaxies, the Vorath advanced. Their ships were enormous, dark, and mercilessly efficient. On board their flagship, Vorath Supreme General Krathus observed the galaxy with cold calculation. The Lorithian alliance is weak, he hissed in a guttural voice. They have called for help. Let them call. The galaxy will continue to bend to our will. Soon, there will be nothing left but ashes. Yet, something new stirred in the galaxy's void. A faint ripple, almost imperceptible, moved through the stars. It was Earth's fleet, a small but determined force, approaching like a storm on the horizon. Unlike any conventional army, the Deathworlders did not rely solely on firepower or numbers. They relied on ingenuity, adaptability, and fearlessness. The very traits the Vorath did not expect. On Kythera, council members watched in awe as Earth's fleet emerged. "They've come," whispered Lady Virel. "The humans, they've actually come." High Chancellor Arvin could hardly believe it. "If anyone can turn the tide, it's them. We have nothing left to lose." Perhaps, for the first time in centuries, hope is not a dream, but a reality. Back aboard the Terran Command Fleet, Admiral Hannah Reyes surveyed the stars. "This galaxy doesn't know what we're capable of," she said quietly, almost to herself. "And that's exactly the advantage we need. The Vorath may be powerful, but they don't understand humans. They've never faced a Deathworlder before." The fleet passed through the first sector of Vorath-controlled space, encountering patrol drones and automated sentries. While most civilizations would have been overwhelmed, the humans adapted instantly. They used stealth technology, magnetic fields, and environmental manipulation to slip past the enemy forces. A small skirmish erupted when a Vorath patrol attempted to intercept them, but the humans turned the situation to their advantage. Using gravitational anomalies in nearby asteroids, they trapped the enemy ships in a deadly orbit, disabling them without firing a single missile. News of Earth's intervention spread quickly among the galaxy's survivors. The alien worlds, who had long given up hope, could hardly believe what they saw. "The humans, they are unlike any species we have encountered," said one Cytherian fleet commander. "They are fearless, clever, unpredictable." On Earth, the Deathworlders did not celebrate. Each victory brought them closer to the heart of the Vorath Empire, a place even more dangerous than anything they had faced before. Soldiers trained for months in the most extreme conditions on Earth now had to adapt to alien worlds filled with toxic storms, volatile terrain, and deadly predators unknown to their biology. But for humans, challenge was not a threat, it was a call to action. Admiral Hannah Reyes addressed her fleet. "We did not come here to die. We came here to survive, to fight, and to save those who cannot save themselves. Every obstacle we face is an opportunity to prove what humanity can do. Remember, we are Deathworlders. We thrive where others perish, and we will not fail." Her words resonated across the fleet. Engineers worked tirelessly to adjust their ships for alien atmospheres. Pilots trained to navigate skies filled with storms that could crush weaker vessels. Soldiers prepared for combat against enemies that seemed unstoppable. Every human knew that the coming battles would be the hardest of their lives but also the most important. In the distance, the Vorath noticed the small human fleet. Supreme General Krathus scowled. "What is this? This is unusual. They move differently. They fight differently. They do not fear. Perhaps these humans are dangerous." For the first time, the Vorath hesitated. They had conquered countless worlds with ease. They had broken civilizations with terror and fire. Yet this species, from a small, overlooked planet on the edge of the galaxy, seemed Different. The stage was set. The galaxy had called for help, and the galaxy had ignored it except for Earth's Deathworlders. As the fleet approached the first system under siege, a sense of purpose filled every human aboard. They were not just soldiers. They were the embodiment of humanity's survival instinct, the living proof that the galaxy had underestimated Earth's might for far too long. And somewhere in the void, the Vorath waited, confident in their inevitable victory. They did not yet understand the force they had awakened. They did not yet understand that humans thrived where others fell. The first battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The first glimpse of the Vorath stronghold filled every human aboard the fleet with a mix of awe and determination. The enemy's ships were vast and black, stretching like shadows across the space around the planet Virulon. These ships were designed for dominance, coated with energy-absorbing alloys, armed with weapons that could tear through conventional fleets. But the humans did not flinch. They were trained to face the impossible. They were Deathworlders. Admiral Hannah Reyes stood on the bridge of the USS Aegis, the lead ship of Earth's fleet, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the enemy formations. "We don't fight like the galaxy expects," she said firmly. "Our ships are fewer, but faster. Our weapons are different. And we adapt. That is our strength. Remember, the Vorath have never faced humans in real combat. Let's show them why they should fear Earth." Commander Darius Khan nodded beside her. "The enemy sensors show a heavily fortified orbital perimeter. If we try a frontal attack, we'll lose half our fleet before we even reach the planet." "What do you suggest, Admiral?" Hannah smiled faintly. "We don't fight them head-on. We fight where they are weak." The fleet shifted its trajectory. Instead of heading straight to Virulon's orbit, they approached from an unexpected angle, the dark side of the planet, where a series of magnetic storms raged. The Vorath sensors were unable to detect the fleet in the storm, giving the humans the advantage of surprise. Below, the planet's surface was a wild mix of jagged mountains and deep canyons filled with poisonous gases. The humans knew this terrain would be deadly for conventional ground forces, but Deathworlders thrived in conditions that would kill others. On Earth, they had trained in deserts, where the sun burned like fire, in frozen wastelands where every breath could freeze their lungs, and in jungles where predators waited behind every tree. The first strike team, led by Captain Leona Voss, prepared to deploy. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Disable the Vorath planetary defenses long enough for the main fleet to enter orbit. Their dropships were small, heavily armored, and capable of flying through the planet's toxic atmosphere. "Remember your training," Leona said to her squad, her voice steady through the comms. "The Vorath are strong, but we are stronger in unexpected ways. Use the terrain, use your wits, adapt, and survive." The dropships pierced the stormy skies, dodging energy pulses from Vorath satellites. A misstep would mean instant destruction. Yet the humans moved like shadows, blending into the storm's chaos. Lightning cracked across the sky, revealing the jagged surface below. Giant crystalline towers, part of the Vorath defensive network, rose from the planet's surface, pulsating with energy. Leona's squad landed on a plateau surrounded by a river of molten rock. Using portable shielding devices and camouflaging tech, they approached one of the towers. Vorath guards patrolled the area, their sensors sharp and deadly. Most species would freeze, but the humans adapted instantly, moving silently, using the wind, the lava, and the rocks to hide themselves. A single shot from a Vorath sentinel could alert the entire facility, yet Leona's team worked with precision. Engineers hacked into the tower's control system, bypassing security protocols with clever improvisations. Explosions erupted as charges detonated inside the tower, collapsing its crystalline structure. The Vorath on the planet's surface scrambled, but it was too late. One tower down, many more to go. Back in orbit, the human fleet took advantage of the chaos below. While the Vorath scrambled to respond to the planetary sabotage, the Deathworlder ships struck hard. They moved in unpredictable patterns, using asteroid fields as cover, and fired precision energy blasts, to disable enemy cannons without risking unnecessary exposure. Alien observers from Kythera and other allied worlds watched in astonishment. "They fight like predators," said Commander Sillin of the Catharian fleet, his wings fluttering nervously. "Not like any species I have ever seen. Every attack, every maneuver is calculated and deadly. And they survive, where others would perish." The Vorath, meanwhile, were forced to rethink their approach. Supreme General Krathus scowled as reports reached him. "The humans, they do not follow our expectations. Their tactics are unusual. They adapt too quickly. Prepare the elite squads. Bring the hunters. Stop them." But the humans were already 2 steps ahead. Captain Leona Voss led her team through narrow canyons filled with toxic gas. Using chemical neutralizers and respirators they had developed on Earth for hazardous environments, they ambushed Vorath patrols, turning the alien strength into a weakness. The Vorath relied on brute force and intimidation. Humans relied on intelligence, creativity, and survival instinct. A larger Vorath force descended to meet the humans. Massive armored walkers, bristling with weapons, emerged from the molten rivers below. Most species would have panicked at the sight, but Leona's team moved like a single organism. Using the terrain, they lured the walkers into narrow passages, where their size became a disadvantage. Explosives, magnetic disruptors, and clever traps disabled several walkers in quick succession. Meanwhile, the main human fleet continued to orbit Virulon, drawing enemy fire. Some of the fleet's ships were hit, but their armor, built to withstand extreme conditions, held strong. Humans did not rely on brute force alone, they relied on tactics that no other species would consider. One human ship intentionally flew into a gravity storm to shake off pursuing Vorath fighters, emerging unscathed while the enemy ships were shredded. As the battle raged on, the alien worlds watching could not help but feel hope. Small fleets from Kythera, once paralyzed with fear, began joining the humans' approach. Their movements were tentative, unsure, but inspired by the Deathworlders' fearlessness. It was a sight few had imagined. Human courage spreading like fire, rallying the galaxy's desperate. On the planet's surface, Captain Leona and her squad reached the central Vorath command facility. The building loomed like a black monolith, protected by energy barriers and dozens of patrolling drones. Leona activated her team's EMP devices, disabling several barriers simultaneously. The drones malfunctioned, collapsing into the lava-filled valleys below. Every move had been calculated, every risk managed. Inside the facility, humans faced their toughest challenge yet, the Vorath generals themselves, towering and armored. These creatures were fast, powerful, and trained in countless combat scenarios, yet the humans did not falter. Using small arms, energy grenades, and clever maneuvers, they managed to outflank the generals. One human soldier, barely visible among the shadows, used a grappling device to swing from the ceiling, knocking out a Vorath officer. Another, camouflaged against the wall, disabled the control console, crippling the facility's defenses. It was not brute force that won the day, it was adaptation. It was creativity. It was the human instinct to survive at any cost. By the time the sun set over Virulon's toxic skies, the Deathworlders had done what many thought impossible. Several Vorath towers were destroyed, the command facility was in disarray, and the humans had opened a path for reinforcements. The galaxy's eyes were fixed on them, and whispers spread among alien worlds. Earth's humans are not to be underestimated. Back aboard the USS Aegis, Admiral Hannah Reyes monitored the aftermath. The fleet had lost ships, but the cost had been worth it. They had achieved what others could not, and she knew this was only the beginning. "Report," she said to her communications officer. "All Vorath defenses in this sector are compromised," the officer replied. "The planet's orbital shields are down, and the surface is ready for Allied forces to move in." Hannah nodded. "Good. Prepare for extraction of any surviving civilians and wounded. And get ready. This is just one planet. The galaxy is bigger, and the Vorath are still out there." Commander Darius Khan looked at her with respect. They underestimated us. They don't understand humans. And I don't think they ever will. As night fell over Virelon, the stars above seemed to shine brighter. For the first time in decades, the galaxy had hope, and that hope had come from Earth, a small blue planet whose people had learned to survive the deadliest conditions imaginable. In the distance, the Vorath regrouped, furious and calculating. They had never faced humans before, and they had made a grave mistake. The galaxy was about to witness a force unlike any it had ever seen, a force that thrived where others would fail, a force that would not yield, and a force that had only begun to fight. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the whispers grew louder. If the humans are here, then perhaps not all is lost. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The galaxy held its breath. After weeks of relentless combat, Earth's Deathworlders had proven themselves in ways that no other species could have imagined. Reports from the Lorithian Alliance and other allied civilizations praised the humans not for their numbers, but for their adaptability, courage, and daring. Yet the final challenge loomed ahead. The heart of the Vorath Armada, the flagship of Supreme General Krathus, where the alien command structure coordinated its entire campaign. Admiral Hannah Reyes stood on the bridge of the USS Aegis, her gaze fixed on the massive Vorath flagship glowing like a dark star in the void. "This is it," she said, her voice calm yet firm. "We've reached the point where the galaxy is counting on us. Every move must be precise. Every decision could change the fate of countless worlds." Commander Darius Khan, monitoring the tactical displays, shook his head. "They have hundreds of ships surrounding that flagship. Most species would never dare approach." Hannah smiled faintly. "Most species aren't human. Remember, Darius, we survive where others fail. We fight where others flee. This is what we were trained for. This is what we do best." The Deathworlder fleet approached, moving like shadows through asteroid fields and cosmic debris. The Vorath detected them almost immediately, and their weapons opened fire. Energy beams lit up the darkness, tearing chunks from the nearest human ships. Yet the humans were ready. Using magnetic field generators and agile maneuvering, the fleet dodged the worst of the attacks. Smaller squads broke off, drawing enemy fire and creating openings for the main strike teams. Alien observers from Kythera, watching from safe distances, could hardly believe what they were seeing. "They're not retreating," whispered Commander Sillin. "They're advancing into the teeth of death and surviving." Inside the flagship, Supreme General Krathus roared orders. "Destroy them. Tear them apart. These humans, they are not afraid." But his elite Vorath soldiers were unprepared for the unconventional tactics of the Deathworlders. Hannah divided her fleet into multiple teams. One would draw the Vorath fighters away, another would disable the flagship's shields, and a third, the elite strike team, would infiltrate the vessel directly. Captain Leona Voss, now battle-hardened from prior encounters on Virelon, led the infiltration team. They approached the flagship's hull in small stealth crafts, designed to resist energy scans and survive the vacuum of space. Every human on board knew that this mission was nearly suicidal, but survival was their nature. "The enemy expects a frontal attack," Leona said to her squad. "We won't give them that. Use the environment. Use the shadows. Use everything they do not expect. We survive. We succeed. That is what humans do." As they latched onto the Vorath flagship, the main fleet engaged the enemy, drawing fire away from the infiltration team. Explosions rocked the outer hull, sending sparks and debris into space. Vorath fighters swarmed the human ships, but the Deathworlders were unpredictable. They used gravity wells from nearby asteroids to swing around enemy formations, striking from impossible angles. Ships that should have been destroyed survived, thanks to ingenuity, timing, and human resilience. Inside the flagship, Leona's team advanced through narrow corridors and energy-guarded passages. Vorath soldiers were strong and fast, but the humans were smarter. Using diversionary charges, portable shields, and quick maneuvers, they neutralized threats without triggering alarms. Every step brought them closer to the core of the ship, where Supreme General Krathus controlled the fleet's operations. Meanwhile, the battle outside raged with intensity. Admiral Hana coordinated her ships with precision, ensuring that the Vorath fighters could not focus on any single target. Human ingenuity turned the battle into a series of unpredictable events. Ships would vanish and reappear, energy beams would curve around asteroids, and feints would draw the enemy into traps. Alien allies who had once doubted humanity were now following the Deathworlders' lead, inspired by their fearlessness. On board the flagship, Leona's team reached the central command chamber. Krathus was waiting, his massive frame towering over the humans. "You dare enter my ship?" he hissed, his voice echoing through the chamber. Leona stepped forward calmly. "We don't just dare. We survive. And we stop you." The battle that followed inside the flagship was brutal but precise. Humans used every tool, skill, and tactic they had developed over lifetimes of surviving the deadliest conditions on Earth. They struck quickly, moved silently, and exploited every weakness in the Vorath armor and technology. It was not brute force that won, it was creativity, adaptation, and an unbreakable will. Outside, the flagship began to falter. Energy shields flickered, weapons misfired, and enemy ships collided in confusion. Admiral Hana saw the opportunity. "Now," she ordered, "deploy the final strike." Using specialized human warships equipped with electromagnetic disruptors, the fleet disabled the Vorath flagship's core systems. Massive explosions shook the vessel as its weapons went offline, and the once mighty armada began to retreat. The Vorath, who had thought themselves invincible, realized too late that the humans were unlike any enemy they had faced. Across the galaxy, survivors watched in awe. Signals poured in from worlds that had given up hope. "The humans! They've done it!" one Catharian commander shouted. "They've turned the tide." Leona's team emerged from the flagship as it began to crumble. They rendezvoused with the fleet in orbit. Battered but triumphant, every human aboard the ships had survived, and every one of them had proven why Earth's Deathworlders were feared and respected. Admiral Hana addressed the fleet over the comms. "This victory belongs to every human here, and to every ally who dared to believe. The Vorath will think twice before underestimating the galaxy again. But remember, our fight is not over. The galaxy is vast, and there are more threats ahead. We survive because we adapt. We fight because we care. And we win because we refuse to fail." The Allied fleets, inspired by humanity, pressed forward to reclaim planets and systems that had been lost to the Vorath. Civilizations that had once ignored the pleas of the Lorithian alliance now joined the effort, led by the strategies and courage demonstrated by Earth's Deathworlders. On Virelon, Captain Leona looked out across the planet's scorched surface. "We did what we came to do," she said quietly. "But this is bigger than any one battle. The galaxy has seen what humans can do, and it will never forget." Supreme General Krathus, defeated but alive, fled with the remnants of his forces. He had underestimated humans, and that mistake would haunt the Vorath for generations. Across the galaxy, whispers spread among alien worlds. If humans are willing to fight, then hope is possible. If humans survive, so can we. Back on Earth, news of the victory reached every continent. The citizens celebrated not just the triumph of their military, but the triumph of human spirit. Children heard stories of Deathworlders who had faced impossible odds and survived. Scholars studied the tactics and ingenuity displayed by the fleet. Leaders recognized that humanity's greatest weapon was not just technology or strength. It was adaptability, creativity, and relentless willpower. Admiral Hana stood on the observation deck of the USS Aegis, gazing at the stars. "The galaxy underestimated us," she said softly. "They thought we were fragile, slow, limited. They were wrong. Humans thrive where others would perish. And as long as we remember that, no challenge is too great. Commander Darius Khan joined her, watching the distant stars twinkle with light from reclaimed systems. "They'll never forget this," he said. "The galaxy knows now that humans are different. The Deathworlders are not just survivors, they are heroes." Hana nodded. "And that's only the beginning. We've shown the galaxy what Earth can do. But we must continue to grow, to learn, and to prepare. Because wherever the galaxy faces darkness, humans will rise. That is who we are. That is what makes us Deathworlders." The stars stretched endlessly before them, filled with countless worlds still in need of protection. Yet for the first time in decades, hope burned brighter than fear. The humans of Earth, the Deathworlders, had changed the galaxy forever. They had fought the impossible, survived the deadly, and shown that courage, ingenuity, and adaptation could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. And somewhere deep in the void, the Vorath recalculated, fearful and wary. They had learned a harsh lesson. Never underestimate humans. Never forget that a species forged in the deadliest conditions could rise to challenge the mightiest empire in the galaxy. The Deathworlders had arrived. The galaxy would never again measure power by numbers alone, and humanity's legend, born on a small blue planet, had only just begun.